All right, welcome everyone to our chat about table banking. This is a particularly exciting one for us because it is something that we had been talking about for some time, but not in these terms. And we this actually came to us through our partner on the ground as something they were doing, and we had to get up to speed real quick to learn all about it and learn what they were doing. And it sounds like a fantastic program that lots of folks are engaged in. So we're happy to chat about it today, and we expect to talk a lot about it here in the future. So a little housekeeping. As always, this chat is being recorded. They are posted online on our YouTube channel, and you can always find them on our website at friendlywater.org/events. You can contact me anytime. I'm Will at friendlywater.org. If you have any questions or comments or suggestions, happy to always entertain those and answer questions about both this chat and anything in the past, or any questions about our programs in general. I'm always available. Our mission, Friendly Water for the World, trains and equips communities in sustainable village scale technologies to safeguard, conserve, and expand essential resources. And we hope that table banking is actually going to be a vehicle to make more of that happen in the future. A little bit about us: we provide expertise in essential resource programs. We build knowledge and resilience with local communities as a partnership. We activate community engagement, long-term community investment with those communities. We embrace the dignity, strengths, and rights of all living beings, and we seek to empower people worldwide to both join us and hopefully join our mission in the world. So why are we talking about table banking? Well, I kind of gave you a little bit of an intro about how it came to us. As part of this process, I've discovered that women, especially, and because this came to us through Kenya, a lot of the information I have today is about Kenya, but it's certainly, Kenya's not alone. Table banking and programs like it are becoming more and more common, not just throughout Africa, but through other developing countries. And I'll kind of talk about why that's happening. But in Kenya, women make up about 80% of the farm labor, as I mentioned in the email invitation that I sent out about this, but only have title deeds to 5% of the land. So they are significantly engaged in the labor without any sense or title of ownership or about the work that they are doing. And that creates a host of issues, one of which is it doesn't give them any collateral to borrow against, which means going to a bank for a traditional loan becomes almost impossible. And it means that they are then excluded from the rest of the financial economy and have to come up with other ways to address their needs. Another reason why this is important is over 20% of the population in Kenya does not have a bank account. They are described as unbanked. And of those 20%, 2/3 of them are women. And there's a variety of reasons why this is the case. Part of it is because they may not have physical access to a bank, and maybe miles and miles and miles to the nearest bank. They also may not have appropriate paperwork like a government ID, or they may not have a fixed address, which is very common. So a variety of kind of the necessities that we think about that folks may not have access to prevents them from having a bank account. And they may not, and a fairly significant reason for a lot of folks is they may not have the money, or they may not feel like they have the money that warrants them opening up their own bank account, and the associated fees that and kind of hassle often that comes with that. One important thing to note about this, though, is that 96% of the population in Kenya specifically does have access to a mobile money account. That's often through something called M-Pesa, and I'll talk more about that in a second, and why that is important, as both kind of an alternative, but also a means to engage in banking. So what is table banking? Well, it's many things. It's both a savings and loan, and also I kind of think of it as an investment co-op. And I'm going to talk all about all of these things in more depth. It's both it's an opportunity to bond a group of individuals together. It's inclusion into the financial economy and often into a social economy that folks may not have. And it is a vehicle out of poverty. So I'll talk about all of those things, but first let's talk about how it works. So initially, a group forms, and these groups can form any number of ways. It can be just a group of people who happen to know each other. They can form around their church. They can form around other social organizations. This particular, or at least the one that we have the most knowledge of, because it's with our partner, formed around the organization that grew out of our community engagement work. So Matsakha Development Group came together as an output of the community engagement, and the entire community, the 10 villages of Matsakha coming together and nominating folks and folks joining that group. And that was the group that was formed. It's kind of an interesting way, actually, for one of these groups to come together. Then someone in the group or multiple people in the group will work together to open a bank account, to create that account, and have usually more than one person's name associated with that account. Over time, folks will contribute to that, and there's a variety of kind of mechanisms and processes that people will use around the contribution to the account. But traditionally, or I should say what's most common, is that everybody in the group contributes. There's usually a minimum amount and there can be a maximum amount. Talk more about that in a little bit. And they make their contributions. Those contributions are often in the form of a mobile transfer. And this is where having access to a mobile money account is really important. They'll have that money on their phone, and they will literally transfer it to the bank account from their phone. So they previously didn't have a bank account, but they did have that mobile money account, and that enables them to transfer the money. Money is transferred to the account. The account then sends a confirmation to the individuals who are associated with the account so that they know, okay, this person has contributed this amount of money this week or this month. And so we have evidence of that. And then there is a passbook that is stamped to confirm, and this is an example of one, to confirm that that money has been received. And then that person knows how many shares they have, which is the terminology most folks use to describe their investment in that table banking group, is the amount of shares they have. Those will be recorded inside the ledger here on the right and stamped. And then that makes it official. And so you know how much money that you have stored in that account, and the administrators of the account know as well. So there's confirmation there, and this passport ensures that you are also aware of what you have. So let's talk about how the account is actually used. As I mentioned, group members are, excuse me, I'm going to go backwards. I lost my place here. Group members are shareholders in this account, and the account builds over time up to there are lots of accounts in Kenya that have literally hundreds of thousands of shillings, maybe millions of shillings in them that the group members have put in over time. Once that account reaches a certain amount that the group has previously agreed upon, typically, they will then determine or at least make funds available for the group. And so this is where kind of the loan part comes in of the savings. So someone in the group may have something they need it for, and you will take a loan then from the account. It's usually paid out at a low interest rate, much lower than the banks would typically charge themselves, because the loan is coming through the group, not through the bank. And then you'll have terms for how long it will take you to pay that money back. And what you'll find is that payback in these table banking programs is extremely high, because you are essentially borrowing from your peers, and that social pressure and social connectivity usually influences people considerably. And so these accounts are usually, the loans are usually paid back at an extremely high rate. It's also used as a way to bond the group together. As you can imagine, if you're all kind of sharing money together, and then some of you take it out as a loan or investment, as we'll talk about in a minute, that can both bind you together. And what it tends to do is, if folks are wanting to take out that loan, they are explaining to the rest of the group why they need it. Why is it important for their family? It may have something to do with health. It may have something to do with education. It may have something to do with an entrepreneurial idea they have. And so that is being shared with all of the group members. And so everyone kind of gets to know each other, gets to know what their strengths are, gets to know what they're interested in, and it fosters camaraderie amongst the group. There are expectations for the group, so they typically meet regularly, and you are expected to attend. There are penalties that can be addressed if you don't attend or don't participate. So they're really designed to bond the group together into something bigger. And it also helps that because this group is together, what they're doing is essentially spreading the bank fees amongst all of the members instead of one member. And it's just an example of how you're kind of, the risk is being taken on as the group itself instead of individuals. So inclusion, this is a really important benefit to table banking. What I didn't realize, and I've talked about this before at Friendly Water for the World, talked about the Sustainable Development Goals, which were put forth by the United Nations. There's 17 of them. They are they influence, I should say present tense, how I talk about our programs, which align with several of the Sustainable Development Goals. And inclusion, financial inclusion, is actually a target, a necessity for almost half of the Sustainable Development Goals have financial inclusion as essentially a requirement for them being able to work properly. As I mentioned earlier, it's also a fantastic option for those who are unbanked, who may not feel like they have, or may not be able to access a bank, or feel like they need to. This not only gives them access to a bank, it gives them access to that experience of interacting with the banking and the financial language that you would use, and learning how to manage money. All of that comes as part of this as well. It's open to all people, but is especially popular with women, which is really important, as it's been women who are being able to participate in this significantly, and who have often been prevented or excluded in the past from participating. And sorry, just adding someone here. And then there's the compounding power of that, both as more people join the group, the strength of the group grows and their account will grow. And as you contribute to that bank account over time, if that bank account earns interest, then you will make money as a group on that over time. So it's very powerful to include folks. And then as a vehicle out of poverty, there's so many benefits to this program. I mentioned earlier that 96% of the population has access to a mobile money account, and those mobile money accounts are usually what's used to transfer money to the bank. Since mobile money has come into existence in Kenya specifically, around 2007, 2008, they estimate that it's lifted 2% of the entire population out of poverty, given them a mechanism to both purchase and sell and transfer money. And that is a vital mechanism to be used inside table banking as well. Sponsors entrepreneurialism. Once the group gets that money up to a certain amount, if someone in the group has a great idea, they want to try cooking something, or they may want to try growing something or building something, they can come to the group and the group will talk together, and then it's potentially a way for them to build their business. And they're not doing it alone. They've got, there are 24 current members of MDG, and if you have an idea, there are 23 other people who are supporting you because they want you to be successful for lots of reasons, because you are in a group with them and they want you to pay the money back as well. So you all of a sudden have 23 other advocates for your success. And this is a fantastic way to prevent the debts that can often come from health problems or from education, sending your children to school. You can borrow money, pay off your health debts, and then have a greater amount of time to pay your money back. So, in the West, and this is probably more true in America than some of other countries, that often health problems can compound. You can't pay one thing, and then you can't pay the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. And this is a fantastic way for you to pay off that initial health debt or health expense, and then be able to pay back to the group over a longer period of time. And in that idea, it kind of right sizes problems. Instead of not being able to pay something and make something worse, which then prevents you from perhaps doing something else, that prevents you from doing something else. You have this cascading effect of problems because you weren't able to address that initial issue. This right sizes that problem and enables you to say, okay, I need something for this. Let's talk about it. I can address it, and then we can move forward. So there are a lot of benefits for it. There are currently 180,000 Kenyan women who are table banking, and they belong to over 11,000 groups in Kenya, which is fantastic. And they have roughly combined about $2 billion in shillings, $2 billion shillings, excuse me, in those bank accounts shared between the groups, which is just amazing. And so the impact of table banking, well, women become owners. No longer are they just there as participants, they can become owners. That enables them to make long-term financial decisions, which they tend to do far more than men. They also tend to invest based on values. And if you're in a group of 24 other people, odds are your values are going to be pretty aligned with the rest of those folks in that group. So when you're investing with your values, you're also investing with your community, which is really fantastic. More money typically will stay home when women become owners and get engaged in the financial economy. And it forces systemic change to the rest of the economy. So now banks are making special accounts for these groups. They're making other offers to this groups. They're creating different kinds of microloans that the group may not have enough to access directly, or they can use through different terms. So the rest of the financial economy has recognized we now have a way to engage these folks, or these folks have invented their own way to engage themselves in the economy. And so now we can interact with them and create products for them and ways for them to achieve their own goals. So that's the kind of the high level of table banking. I wanted to give everyone an introduction. I'm pretty sure that Getri has joined our meeting. She is the executive director of TCSC, and she has been working closely with MDG on getting their table banking both set up and operationalized in the group. And I asked her if she wouldn't mind coming to our chat today and mentioning a few words on just how it works for them, what their goals are with table banking, and hopefully she will be able to do that. Getri, get you connected?
Hi, Getri. Very good to see you.
Nice to see you all. How are you?
Very well,
Getri,
thank
how is
you.
your mother?
She's fine. She's fine. Thank you for your prayers. So Will, should I go ahead?
Yes, please do.
Greeting friends. I'm seated here. Next to me is Margaret Makuto, who is the organizing secretary of MYDG group that was formed with the project of Friendly Water. I chose to bring Margaret on board because personally, I think she has been very active on issues of table banking. And I think being a woman from the village with very limited resources, she got an understanding of what it means to have a table banking process. But I'll start with a Swahili quote. We say, mwanamke ndio utu wa mgongo, which means a woman is the spinal cord of the economy. So where you find, I think in Africa, there's so much expectation of what a woman should do, but very limited exposure to leadership and accessibility of funds. And that's why you find in explanation by Will, banking was initiated by women, and it's actually basically majorly done with most women. Although as I speak now, men have become a part of it, and they're feeling it's a joy to ride together. And most when you find a group that has got both gender working on a table banking, that group is usually successful. Because it means there's somebody, like there's a man who has accepted to go down to meet the level of a woman as society will define them, but women also feel empowered to work together with men. So MYDG started its table banking. And because as I said earlier, women are expected to do a lot, but they're very limited when it comes to finances and work and opportunities. Most of them have very limited land, and majority, if they're married, their husbands own the land, and so the husband dictates what will happen in their farm. And so women are basically majorly able to go to what you call chama. That is, chama is a Swahili word, which means being in a welfare group, and talk about how they can sustain themselves to get out of the bracket of poverty. And as I speak, I'm conscious because poverty is relative. It's hard to define what poverty is because people have it differently. But I see most of the local women, they do not see it as a joy to get to wealth, but they see it as a joy to successful life. As long as I can be able to afford to put bread on a table for my children, including my husband, who is the firstborn of the family, it means I basically am having a successful family. And it's not about how many mansions I can build. And so for them, having that little on the table, going around and everybody able to access it, it's a very important aspect. I've done several groups with the idea of table banking, and I've seen even a group in Mount Elgon where women were given, they started as a small group, but they did not have to raise a lot because they are struggling. And by the end of the day, a friend came in and said, you know what, if I can give you money as a loan, you don't need to pay interest, but it can circulate within the group. And empower women pay very little interest, at least to have a life of themselves. It's been 3 years and I've seen this group very successful. I go to that community. 4 years ago, they would sit and look at me after training. They want to be given allowance. But as I go there right now to talk about issues of dialogue, they just finish the dialogue and they say, thank you, and they go. So it's reducing the dependency of what are you bringing for me when you come? Rather, they look at, we are okay because we are doing something, at least to sustain ourselves. Today, we had a very successful meeting with MIDG Group, and the major discussion was about what figure they have so far raised in terms of shares for the last 3 months, which was kind of $140. If one woman said, can we start borrowing this money? If those people who have business can access this money so that we can go about it. But then we realized today, like 4 people are interested to borrow the money and the money is still not enough for them. And so they are still continuing to give the shares with the hope that they can be able to run it. One, pay that little interest, which is still going back to the group and empowering the same women, while also making the women comfortable to do their normal life outside the group and bring the benefits to the group. And so I'll invite Margaret to, 1, you hear her voice, 2, what does she know about her table banking in her views?
Okay, hi. I'm Margaret Mokto. From MYDG, and I am glad to meet you this night. And I'm also rejoicing that Friendly Water have been very much close to us, and they are continuing supporting us very well. As an organizing secretary, we as women in MYDG, we are just poor because we lack finance and we lack somebody to support us improve on our living, today life living. So in our today's meeting, we discussed on how can we improve our lives as women. And on that note, many women in our group are willing to live a better life, but because of lack of finance, they are unable to access to that life they want. So we discussed that if we may be access to somebody who can finance us with any amount of money so that we can work on it and just circulate the money within us ourselves, that will improve our lives. I think they will be very happy if even they just get somebody to support us to improve our lives as women in our community. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Table banking is a concept that is really, really going to the grassroots because it does not look at how much education you have. It does not look at the level of influence you have, but it believes on how can you influence within yourself and your family to extend to the community. And so you'll find very many people who are looking at it and they're aggressive. Once they get the knowledge and they know what they're doing, they'll be very fast in getting the concept and moving on. Back to you, William.
Well, thank you both very much. It's great to hear what it's like on the ground and where you are, and it's truly it seems like a fantastic opportunity, and that's something that all of you have put forth together yourselves. That certainly wasn't even something that we were actually aware of at the time, and we are kind of thrilled that we can help in any way we can. And it seems like there's a great opportunity here in large measure. As I mentioned earlier, several groups, when they come together, they're coming together because there's a community connection or perhaps a faith connection. This group came together to help build things in their community for their community. They have already created an amazing meta soap for their community, and have produced and sold over 10,000 liters of that in their community. They have made over 11,000 bricks, and they are soon going to be starting to build rainwater catchment tanks. And those are members of the community who are doing that. And that's their labor, which means part of the money that is going into this table banking account is actually coming from their labor for these programs. So it's a great spark, hopefully, for their account and their programs, and we're really excited to both watch it grow and watch the group grow and see what they accomplish. I believe we had someone from the Women's Enterprise Foundation join us. I think Eric is going to introduce her. Eric, would you mind doing that?
Yes, Will. I want to appreciate Will and the others who have spoken ahead of me about the whole idea and the concept of the type of banking. And on this call, we have got a very important person who has got vast experience when dealing with the women groups and issues to do with type of banking. She's one of the employees of Women Enterprise Fund, who is based actually in Kakamega. And one thing about this lady that is very unique about her, and I always tell her whenever I meet her, I never make a mistake of walking with her on foot while in Kakamega town. Because it's like when she's in Kakamega town, every woman who is within Kakamega town, they know this lady by nature of the work that she's doing. I want to introduce my friend for so many years. She's called Vosca Omoro. If you see there's an account that is having my name, that is Vosca Omoro, who is actually working with the Women Enterprise Fund. She will share with us briefly about the work she's doing at Women Enterprise Fund, and also she'll be sharing with us about her experience about TEPO banking and why it is important to have TEPO banking in most of the women groups. So allow me to welcome Vosca Omoro. If you're there, please, you can say hi to us and share to us about yourself. Unmute yourself first.
Yes. Hi to you all. As you have heard from my friend Eric, I'm Vosca Omoro. I work for Women Enterprise Fund, that is Kakamega County. And what we do as a Women Enterprise Fund we fund groups. We give them money to initiate in their small businesses, that is small enterprises. And besides that, these mamas, the clients, the women, they initiate their small table banking before they're being funded. And it's a bit funny because you get that these mamas every month or every week, they save like 5 shillings, 50 shillings, 100 shillings. Assume there are like 10 women. At the end of the day, if they're saving 5 shillings, that is 50 shillings Kenya money. Then at the end of the month, you'll find that these mamas have like 3,000. They put it on the table as table banking. They borrow. After borrowing, they return with interest to sustain the group. Then after that, you find that they open an account, as the earlier person had said and explained well. They open an account to save the small amount of money that they have raised. But now we come in as Women Enterprise Fund, being a government fund. We support them to empower their small businesses. We give them money to boost their businesses without interest. If I may remember the previous lady who talked, Margaret talked of they're looking for some money if somebody can sponsor them. An advice to her, we have Women Enterprise Fund in all constituencies in the whole country. That's 290 constituencies. We give them loans. It's a soft loan because there's no interest. You run your businesses. Take an example of 10 mamas or women. 100,000, every mama will take 10,000, boost her business, return the money without interest. Put in mind that besides that, they already have the small table banking, being the main topic of the day. They will continue with their own table banking, but Women Enterprise Fund comes in to boost them on their businesses without interest. So if they clear the 100,000, we give them 200,000, still boosting their businesses without interest again. If they clear the 200,000, we give them 350,000. They repay within 12 months. They repay without interest. Then we give them 500,000 Kenyan money. They repay within 15 months, still no interest. If they clear, we give them 750,000 Kenyan money. They pay within 24 months, still no interest. If they clear the 750,000, we give them 1 million, still no interest. So what I mean, Women Enterprise Fund is there to boost the businesses and support clients or women in Kenya to make sure they run their businesses without difficulties. Some start up their small businesses because we find that, as Margaret had explained earlier, women, when we invest in women, you invest, it will help you to improve your economy. So if we invest in women, we believe only one woman being empowered, the family is empowered. And if the family is empowered, 10, 100, 1,000 families being empowered, it means the whole nation is empowered. So in Kenya, we invest in women to ensure that the economy of Kenya is stable. Secondly, as table banking, we find that, as I had explained earlier, if a woman can get 5 shillings in a day as a profit, she'll be in a position to feed the whole family. Because if I take as a joke, you take 200 Kenya shillings, you give to a woman to make sure that we have supper on the table. These 200 shillings, this woman will make sure that she has a balance. But if you get the same, you take the same 200 shillings to give to a man, the best meal a man will bring on the table as Kenyans is meat. And put in mind, the meat is only one type of food. So empowering in women, we believe, and I believe as an officer, that if we empower a woman, my friend, the family will be wow. So, as today's topic on the table banking, if we can empower these mamas in small chamas, the groups, we give them small amount of money. Within 1 year, within 2 years, you won't find this woman in the same state that she was the last or the previous years. So table banking to me is the best activity that women can invest in if we want the world, leave alone even the nation like Kenya. If we want the world to improve on its economy, let us just invest in women through table banking. Thank you very much, Eric.
Yeah, thank you, Vosca. Just before you cut off this call, for purposes of this meeting, can you just let us know how many groups that are under your control within Kakamega?
In Kakamega County, we have 3,640 groups being funded by Women Enterprise Fund. Yes.
Wow.
And
so
all
you
of
can
them,
imagine.
yeah, 3,640 in Kakamega County. And put in mind, 70% of these clans are women. The officials that hold the account are women. And most of them, the main activity is table banking. Thank you.
I have a question for
Yes.
you, please. Within the group that is involved with the table banking in, say, in one village, how are the decisions made about the loans? Is it a consensus? Does there need to be unity? Are some people more able to identify the worthiness of a loan request? I'm thinking if there's 30 people involved in the group, and somebody wants to start a little business, and 20 people think that's a good idea and 10 don't. How do you work it practically speaking?
Okay, thank you. What we do in Kenya and in Kakamega County specifically, we sensitize women. That's the first activity. Like 10 women together, they make a group, they register with the government, that is under social services. We make sure they have something common, a common goal that will bind them together. So after understanding each other, having the same goal, having the same vision, then we agree. If we agree that in Kenyan money, every woman will be coming with 100 shillings per month, we collect it together. The main agenda here is we have to make sure that these women have the same goal, the same level of activity. Like, for example, if they're selling chicken, or they're selling mutumba, or they're maybe, let's say they have a washing machine,
they have a common activity that brings them together. Then after that, after agreeing the amount of money that they're going to collect at the end of the week or at the end of the month, to mean they're equal. You know, when you are in a group, the issue of I'm rich, I'm poor is not there. The main thing is, do we have the same goal? If our goal is to eradicate poverty, what are we doing as women to make sure that we eradicate poverty among the women? Table banking, after which one can borrow this small amount of money, for example, 2,000, buys groundnuts, start selling the groundnuts with the 2,000 shillings. At the end of like 2, 3, 4 months, you find that this woman maybe was like selling 2 kgs of groundnuts. After 3 months, 4 months, she's selling a sack. That's an improvement. That's an empowered woman.
Yes.
Look where she came from 2,000. At the end of the day, you go to the account of this mama, she's in a position to borrow from the group under table banking kit, like 10,000 to go and buy like 10 sacks of groundnuts. That's an improvement. And as an officer, I feel like I have empowered somebody somewhere, and she's in a position even to feed the family. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any question?
Does anybody else have either questions for Vosca or for Getry?
I have a question and I'm not sure who to ask it of. 2 questions.
Yes.
One, how does Friendly Water help facilitate table banking? And are there any overhead costs besides those little cards? And how
Pardon?
are they
The
covered?
first question?
The first
The
question
first question?
how can Friendly Water, or is Friendly Water involved in helping with table banking?
Yeah, maybe
Yes.
Go ahead,
maybe
Kurt.
Danny, maybe I can take a quick stab at that first question. I think the way that we're involved with table banking is we're creating the environment and the platform where it can flourish. So by paying wages to the people who make the soap and who make the bricks, they are taking those wages and investing those into the table banking schema.
Yeah.
So we are at the very front end of creating the capital in order to make this happen. And just real quick, as long as I'm here and on, I just really wanted to appreciate Vosca Omoro and Margaret Wafula, and of course my friend Getry, who are all up very late. And I really thank you for spending a very late evening with us. And not only for your time, but for the words that you are sharing with us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Did that answer both of your questions, Danny?
No, the other question is, it sounds like there's some administrative costs besides the paper cards. Are we involved in helping make sure the administrative part is covered?
At this time, no. We're there to make sure that there is the ability to create it. And I think part of this is the realization that part of empowerment is people being able to carry this themselves. So if we can create the impetus or the catalyst,
Oh, Kurt will come back.
Kurt.
Yeah, he has a spotty internet connection. I'm sure he'll be back in just a second here. I would fill the air with some delightful humming. There he is. Kurt, if you want to finish that last sentence.
Yeah, I guess I was saying, no, Danny, our goal is to create that platform and allow the community to create their own system of maintaining and improving and evolving to fit themselves rather than some preordained idea that we have. I think this is probably the most pure expression of a community coming together by themselves, for themselves, with us just doing a little piece of it.
I had a tiny bit of interaction around this when I was in Uganda. I was a guest speaker at one of the schools when it's the 7th grade. It's a big deal. It's like kind of like a graduation, special cards and everything. And the parents, I was at that and spoke at that. And then afterwards, the parents and grandparents of the children had assembled. There was quite a large group of them, and they were just beginning to talk about it with what I would call like a Grameen Bank model, which is really, it was really table banking that they were up to, and they were from local villages, quite poor, but they were all putting money in, and one person was collecting and adding it up, and they each had their little like a bank passbook for them, and they were just beginning the project. So when I was there, I put some money in to just to help them kind of get started and have something. And we had a wonderful half hour of sort of dancing and celebrating, because they were very happy that there was enough money so that they could actually start to draw on it. And that encouraged more people to put money in. And the people that were able to speak to me about it said that they felt very confident that group would sustain itself and being able to, help each other and sponsor projects. So that was just a tiny little piece of something, but it was something. I mean, I felt very positive about it. The attitude and the way the women were responding, I felt was very good. And clearly it was helping them bond together. They were having a good time, and they were all putting in a little, whatever they could afford. So it was good.
That's fantastic. Are there any other questions for Vosca or Getri or myself?
I was just going to make a kind of a comment question that I'll bet this Women's Enterprise Fund, which it's very interesting to learn about. I'll bet, Daniel, that they do some training for the groups to develop the table banking. Maybe someone can confirm that.
Yeah, I just want to confirm that Vosca Omoro has been sharing with us, and who happens to be an official of the Women Enterprise Fund. She is also a trainer. So in most circumstances, before they engage with any group and give them money, they make sure that they have undertaken a training with the group in a capacity building. So training comes first before actually these funds are released to these particular groups. So they do trainings. And one thing that I was talking to her is that with my on-lock arrangement with her, we are planning that maybe very soon we'll be doing a similar training with the Matsakha team, so that they get to be trained more about table banking.
When I was working in London, I was living in a multi-ethnic area, which was called Hackney. And there we had a credit union, which was similar, but a bit more formalized. By law in Britain, a credit union had to have a common bond. So that was all anyone who lived in the area. And in the same way, people would save little by little. And as you built up your saving, you could take out a loan And as you repaid the loan, the rule was that you also, each time you put in a repayment, you added a little bit to your savings. So that was encouraging everybody to save. And because the group was so big, we didn't make the decisions all together. There was an organizing committee and there was a credit committee of various people who looked at the loans. So that was something similar happening in a financially less well-off area of a developed country.
Mm. Yeah, it does sound similar, Elizabeth. Well, we have reached 4 o'clock, so I'm going to do one last opening for those folks who may want to join or may want to ask a question. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. This is really our first time to talk about this subject. You'll probably be hearing a lot more about it as we learn more and as we can share more successes from Matsakha Development Group and other groups we work with on table banking and how that's going to be a part of hopefully our future. So thank you everyone for joining. I hope everyone you'll know that we are moving forward with our program for water security in Matsakha, and we're really excited to have broken ground on the first tanks nearby Kambiri here this week, and I'll be talking more about that in the future. We are still fundraising for that program, so if you go to friendlywater.org/7-cents, you'll see our fundraising page for that program, and we're really excited for that to be moving forward. So thank you everyone very much. Again, we'll be meeting this final Friday of next month, and this video will be up online in case you want to catch some parts you may have missed. And I hope everyone has a fantastic weekend.
Great. Namaskar, Bandana.
Thanks, everybody. Good to see you all.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey,
Thank you too.
We can't see you, Bandana, but welcome to the end of our meeting.
hello.